how do we bring Copy AI to market as the new Copy AI, not as the copywriting app, which is tough because it literally is in our name, Copy.ai.
You were probably the first to come up with the idea to use AI to serve those search intents. Here at Ahrefs, we saw you guys did it and had a lot of success, so we just copied it.
You all are tough competition, trust me. I thought I got away from you all when I left SpyFu, but no, I didn't.
Question that I cannot not ask: why did you leave Copy.ai after 2 years?
This is the $1 million question. I've been asked this so many times since I've left. I left because
I would imagine that the posts that you wrote so far on your LinkedIn were written by yourself.
Negative.
Negative?
Yeah, no, I have not written a single post myself.
Seriously, you wrote them with AI?
100%, yeah. If you give a lazy marketer AI, they'll just scale their laziness. You still have to work.
Are you up for this challenge, taking this transcript and generating a piece of content with AI out of it?
We can leave it to the people to vote on which piece they think is better. We won't tell them which one was made by AI or the freelancer. Yeah. I think that'll be interesting. So okay. AI, don't make me look bad, AI. No, I'm kidding.
Ahrefs Podcast.
I do want to discuss your play with AI tools and the fact that here at Ahrefs we saw you guys did it and had a lot of success, so we just copied it. But for us it was easier because we basically we used our own tools to kind of spy on the industry to see what's working for whom and see like if we want to replicate this. So we saw it works for you, and for us it was a no-brainer. But I believe you were probably the first to come up with the idea to use AI to serve those kind of search intents like paragraph generator, paragraph rewriter, those kinds of things. So for example, I don't even know what was ranking in Google before AI tools were doing those things. So walk me through how you came up with the decision and what you saw in the SERP back then.
Yeah, of course. Before I jump in, you all are tough competition. Trust me. I can remember the moment I first saw you all ranking. I'm like, here we go again. I thought I got away from you all when I left SpyFu, but no, I didn't.
But man, that's the thing. Like if you do things that are easy to replicate, that's not a moat, right? You need to do harder 100%. Things which are harder for other people to copy. So for example, for us at Ahrefs, it would be quite technical, but our crawler, which Dmitry, our founder, and the team has worked for over a decade, it's very hard to replicate. So I remember there was a time when I just joined the company, I think back in 2015, and we went to a PubCon in Las Vegas with Dmitry, and I met the guys from DeepCrawl, now Lumar. Mm-hmm. So for those who don't know, DeepCrawl is the software that crawls kind of your site, but not the entire internet. And back in 2015, they told me that we're going to launch our own backlink crawler. It never happened. And I guess I know the reason why, because it's incredibly technically challenging. That is why there are only a few companies in the world who can crawl the web at web scale. But yeah, anyway, back to the play with AI tools.
Yeah. So I not many people know this, but when I first started working with Copy AI, I was a consultant, and I was primarily helping them with tools and templates. And how we kind of stumbled across this opportunity, this is pre-chat GPT. So Copy AI was very different. You could only use tools and templates. So we didn't let users write their own prompts. So there was a layer of prompt engineering already baked in to each tool and template. So if you wanted to write an Instagram caption, you would sign in to Copy AI, click on the Instagram caption tool that was in the app, and use that. The very first version of Copy AI was actually all built in Webflow. The whole thing, the entire app, which is very impressive. The co-founder, Chris, did a great job building that out. But yeah, it was just tools and templates in app. And our users loved it. So at the time, it's only Copy AI, Jasper. There was no Chat GPT. If you wanted to use AI, you had to be somewhat technical. right? So it wasn't very accessible at the time. And I'm going through all of the feedback we're getting from NPS, and I just keep seeing everyone talking, just raving about the tools. And as you know, like tools have been a staple for folks like HubSpot, right? And other SaaS companies, they've used tools and templates as a way to acquire traffic. So I'm like, hey, let me jump into Search Console and see if there's anything in Search Console, right? Like I went through my typical route of, of course, using like your tool as well to do some keyword research, but there wasn't really anything out there. So I jumped into Search Console. I'm like, maybe I can find some type of data in here of some sort. And I saw folks searching for Instagram caption tool. It was like everything was tool this, tool that. And there was some competition, like Hootsuite had a tool to write Instagram captions. I don't believe it was powered by AI. But there really wasn't a whole lot of competition out there. The bet that I made was that more people would search for generators, and like generators would bring in more qualified traffic for us versus tool. I felt like we'd be able to rank a lot better as well. So we ended up shifting everything over to generators instead of focusing on tool. So Instagram caption generator, sales copy generator, and just kind of went down the list of all the tools we had in app. We wanted to expose those, bring those to the rest of the world, because at the time it was just really hard to use AI.
Instagram caption generator. Was this the target audience for Copy.ai? Were the people looking for this and looking to use this, were they signing up for Copy.ai? Did you measure that?
Yeah. So actually our tools are one of the largest drivers in terms of new customers, tools and templates. Some use case pages performed pretty well. They exceeded what I thought they would do. It's like, oh, hey, we'll get some traffic from this. This will be great. Kind of help us build out the rest of the site. But folks started converting, and they convert really well. We're talking like 40% from land to account. And I think a lot of that.
But can we talk specifically about the Instagram caption generator? Because I wonder what's the conversion rate of that page specifically. Because I would imagine that different tools probably converted at different rates, right? So it wasn't all flat. So some converted well, some converted worse. So what was, the worst converting page? Tool.
Ooh, the sentence rewriter. It was probably
sentence rewriter.
Yeah, that's about the worst performing tool. The Instagram caption generator was the best performing tool on Copy.ai in terms of conversions and traffic. Second to that is the sales copy generator in terms of conversions.
Well, sales copy generator, I can totally see how people who need sales copy would sign up for Copy.ai. Mm-hmm. Instagram caption generator, like all those Instagram bloggers that don't have any ideas of what to write underneath their photos, they're paying for a tool. And what was the entry level package at the time of Copy.ai?
We were at, I believe we were $39, but we did have a free forever plan.
So when you say conversion rate, is that for $39 or was this for free forever plan?
The freemium plan, the free plan. Yeah. So the free land to the free plan. Correct.
Okay. So we're talking about the conversions to a free plan that changes the entire conversation. I also wanted to ask about paragraph generator. Mm-hmm. So I wonder if you kind of collected any intel about those tools, like who is the target audience for paragraph generator? What do people do with generating paragraphs? Where do you need this?
It's funny because a lot of the input is off the wall, like it's very random. It's not, I was foolishly expecting to see a lot of like marketing use cases. I'm like in it every day. So I'm like, oh yeah, people are, maybe they want to rewrite a couple of paragraphs or something like that. But it is really random. Like write me, a couple of paragraphs about my dog, Benjamin. So it's just very random. And at that time, Copy.ai, like our core customer base, because we were a prosumer, was mainly students, and freelancers. Students made up the majority of the customers at that time. So, you would see inputs come in like around accounting topics or even medical topics, right? Where students were trying to use the paragraph generator or paragraph rewriter to help them rewrite something in their paper at that time. So that's when we were still very much prosumer and not so much B2B.
Yeah, that's the challenge of when you're kind of not your own target audience, because I am the target audience for Ahrefs and I understand the use cases. I know what I want to add to the tool. But for example, Dmitry had a domain name called wordcount.com, and it was just empty for a while. But then we had some free dev resources, and Dmitry put up the actual word counter on this page, which started ranking, generating traffic, and people started using it. But for example, I specifically wondered who needs a word counter, given that in Google Documents, you just go to tools, word count or whatever, and it gives you all the information. Who needs a dedicated tool and search for it in Google and use it? And we added a button, I think request a feature button or something like this, but within the request a feature form, we also try to profile the audience. And yeah, like you say, I think it was, well, overwhelmingly students. It was overwhelming. I don't remember if it was 70, 80 or 90%, but I remember that pie chart and it was mostly comprised of students. And students don't seem to be the most lucrative audience out there. I don't think they would often have $39 to spend for an online tool, let alone pay it consistently on a recurring basis.
Yeah, no, that's spot on. So we had some trouble, of course, monetizing students. Like the folks we were able to monetize, of course, they would churn. So LTV was pretty low across that cohort. But once the tool pages, like as a collective, all started ranking better, and we pretty much own those queries across the map, we did get quite a few like B2B companies signing up. We had enterprise opportunities come through, tools and templates as well. I don't know if I'm at liberty to say any names. Maybe one. I don't know if they ever closed, but like, for example, like Walmart. Like, I'm like, wait, what? You came through a tool page? I would have never expected that. But there is a lot of noise when you build out tools and templates, right? Because you're going to attract a bunch of traffic that, quite frankly, won't convert. But there's that small percentage of folks who will come in that I think, really helps move the business forward.
Yeah, well, when you cast a net this wide, I think it was in the millions of visits, right? You published a bunch of posts on your LinkedIn about that whole play, and you were quite transparent with all the numbers that you have generated with those tools. It was in the millions, right?
Yeah, we hit a million clicks a month last June.
So yeah, I would imagine when you're generating a million clicks per month, that would be like one or two Walmarts there for sure. So yeah, it makes total sense. Did you have a sales team at the time to follow up with those leads, or was it all kind of organic inbound?
We did have a sales team. They did not hunt. So our inbound was just at a massive scale, which was, great for them. So it was more product led sales than anything. As these companies came in, if they matched the criteria, the sales team would reach out to them. And then we quickly expanded the sales team just to keep up with the volume that we had.
Yeah. Okay, so the tools play clearly worked out well for you. Well, right now, I believe the competition is becoming more and more aggressive because just last week I was recording a podcast interview with Tom from Surfer, and they also launched AI tool, a free AI tool. It was AI humanizer or something like that. So when you want to kind of rewrite the copy from AI, and it also showed up, like I'm looking at their Ahrefs graph of this free tool page, and it showed up to, I think, 100K according to Ahrefs quite easily, quite fast. So they're going to scale that as well. So yeah, but to be honest, those tools are so easy to build, especially when you are a developer, because I remember when we saw you guys having success with them, Dmitry just said, like, we need 20 of these tools by the end of the week, something like that. and it was done. Yeah, we like I believe you guys used Copy.ai because it has those kind of workflows when you can generate, when you can create this tool within a tool. But we did it the old-fashioned way, where you take a developer, they connect to OpenAI API, write a bunch of prompts, create a form. But those tools were so easy to build that, yeah, like I said, I only see competition getting bigger and bigger. I think HubSpot started launching something. I think I saw HubSpot for one of those tool queries. So yeah. It's very hard to defend your positions, given that everyone is essentially providing more or less the same service. So there is little to no differentiation unless you do your own LLM. And even then, if the inputs and outputs are the same, it all about the brand, who can do the most marketing, who can attract the most links. Anyway, let's talk about content marketing at Copy.ai. Because Copy.ai is a tool for creating copy. It's in the name, right? Copy.ai. And yet, the company was super successful with the tools play. But the blog, as of today, as I looked up at Ahrefs, it seems to be bringing just 2% of all search traffic. But it's not that the company wasn't publishing any content on the blog, because I would understand if the blog would have just 10 articles and that's it. The content seems to be published quite regularly, and yet it's just 2% of all search traffic. And I believe only in the past couple years it started to pick up. But before that, for the long time, nothing was happening. So I'm not sure if you were the one responsible for the content strategy, but tell me what was happening to content marketing at Copy.ai.
Yeah, of course, and it's awesome that you dug into the data there. There's an interesting story here that's somewhat changed my perspective on how I approach these things. But when I first started working with Copy.ai, they were working with a handful of freelancers. And I think at one point, like, traffic for the blog peaked at right around 25,000 clicks organically a month. But the content had absolutely nothing to do with Copy.ai. Some of it was close, but I'll give you an example. We always laughed about this internally. One piece of content was how to write an obituary with AI. And I'm like, hey, I don't think anyone, I'm like, first of all, why did we write this? Second, I don't think anyone who is actually going to pay for Copy.ai is going to land here and say, oh yeah, you know what? Great idea. Let me pull out my wallet and pay for Copy.ai. So we had all of this content that some of it was really random. A lot of it was like very top of funnel. It's that traditional play of like, hey, here's this huge list of keywords. Look at how much traffic we could potentially get. And you just start cranking out content left and right. So when I joined, I had a conversation with the co-founder, Chris, and I pulled up one of his interviews and I said, hey, like, I'm bought in because of this vision here. But if you look at all of this blog content, it's bringing in traffic. No one's converting. This does not align with the vision that I just heard you talk about. So I wanted to remove all of the content, all of it that was not relevant to anything that we were doing at all. So I actually went through, removed all of that content. So that's where you see the drop with the blog traffic. So we got rid of that. Of course, we took a hit with traffic, but conversions picked up. And my goal from there on out was, how do we create content to show people how to actually use AI? Of course, we'll try to attach some of this to keywords where we see fit. And we were in the middle of this pivot from being a prosumer brand to a B2B, like AI automation company at the time. And I started creating content around AI workflow automation. I think that was like December of 2022. So we're creating content around those queries, not a ton of volume at the time, but it was so aligned with what we were doing. And we knew Copy.ai was a critical solution there. So didn't care too much about volume. We wanted to nail the topics, make sure if any prospect is searching for this, we're there, and just continue to build on that. So that's hard to explain to leadership of like, hey, I just killed all the blog traffic is gone. But if we do this right, we should see more conversions. That was a tough sell, but I was able to get across the finish line.
So you were the one responsible for the content strategy, right?
Yes. After the initial wave of content that was built out, like the how to write an obituary with AI, or like how to create a food blog with AI. So I joined shortly after that. We ended up, kind of shuffling up the freelance team, removed all of that content, and then rebuilt the content strategy moving forward.
I wonder, how did you approach it from the operations standpoint? Like, for example, did you do, a massive keyword research around the topics that you're interested in? You dump that all in a big spreadsheet. Did you have freelancers or in-house people working on the content?
Yeah, so for a bit, it was mainly freelancers. And then we ended up hiring a head of content in February or March of 2023.
So walk me through that content engine. How did it all work? Did you work, in quarterly sprints? Was there someone approving articles before they got published? Because I know we've been building our own content engine at Ahrefs and refining it all the time as the company kept growing, because it's one thing when it was just basically me and Josh, our head of content, and I think 2 or 3 freelancers. And now we have an entire team, we have more people, we have more resources, and it's a bit harder to manage that whole thing. So I wonder, what did that look like for you from kind of the organizational operations standpoint? How did it work?
Yeah, it evolved quite a bit. Like in the early days, I would go do the topic keyword research. I would listen to sales calls. I would speak to customers myself, talk with both of the founders about where we were going. So I was trying to be proactive, right? Like I knew we had this pivot coming up. And I was like, hey, if I could start ranking on topics we care about now, it's going to make things so much easier when we actually launch. Once I did all of the keyword and topic research, we had quarterly, you can call them sprints if you want, but we had these quarterly sprints. And within each sprint, I would break it out to roughly 6 weeks. So I would go through prioritized topics. We used Notion at the time. So all of the topics were prioritized in Notion. The freelancers had access to the writing and editing room. So they could see all the topics, stats for each topic, which angle they should take for that topic, and then, of course, what they were assigned. And then they would just jump in, create the draft. I, at the time, had to approve everything. So everything went through me. And I do not like editing content at all. So I did use AI to help me edit content. I'm sure we'll get into that at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just do not like editing content at all. I like to be like super into the weeds, especially with technical SEO and things like that. But yeah, everything went through me. And then as we brought on the head of content, the process changed just a little bit. Of course, she was starting to go through and review all of the content. We tweaked the AI workflow we built to help her edit that content as well. And shortly before I left, the entire process changed to where we were working with freelancers not to write the content anymore, but to review the content and fact check the content, because it was largely being produced by AI. So anytime we would have a sales call, a workflow would run and create a piece of content. And then we used the freelancers to make sure, ensure, hey, is this accurate? Did it hallucinate and just make up something random about the product or, about this topic? So the structure changed quite a bit. But what I found to be really helpful is working in those 6 week blocks and just being super on point about who's doing what, being very clear with due dates for drafts, due dates for publication, and just housing all of that in Notion in a really easy to digest way.
2 quick questions. First, what was the output of each freelancer? How many articles were they able to create per week or per month? And second, where specifically did you find those freelancers?
Yeah, that's a great question. It varied quite a bit. Some freelancers would do anywhere between 2 to 4. Nathan, who is now
2 to 4, what, per week or per month?
Per month, 2 to 4 per month. Then Nathan Thompson, who's full-time now at Copy.ai, was recently promoted to head of content strategy. He started as a freelancer. for me at Copy, and he was like superhuman. So he was doing 4 to 6 per week, like just insane output, all very high quality. But he was just a complete workhorse. So it did vary quite a bit across the board.
Whoa, because for us, we so far landed at the sweet spot of 3 articles per month from each in-house employee. But this is considering that we need to put some extra effort into those articles, not something kind of you can write in a day, but do research, ask some people, maybe do some poll. So yeah, and when we tried to push this over 3 articles per month, it was quite hard. The quality, maybe we're doing something wrong. I want to ask more people about their content teams and what kind of pace there, especially in-house, because freelancers, they can work for other people if they're not working full-time for you, so you don't really know their workload. But I wonder what's the optimal workload. I think 1 article per week seems quite fair, to be honest, but it depends if you have any additional tasks to take care of, probably.
Yeah, I personally, I don't disagree with that. I mean, that's pretty similar to like what I've seen on the agency side as well when I've run content teams in the past, about 1 per week. If you're working on something that's a bit larger than a traditional blog post, of course you'll change the cadence quite a bit. I'm curious. You mentioned like when you tried to go above 3, it didn't quite work for you all. Was it mainly quality or just maybe team feeling a little overwhelmed?
Yeah. It was both quality and burnout. People started feeling stressed when one of the articles started to take more time, and they understood that by the end of the quarter they need to finish this amount, and it created quite a bit of stress. And whenever a writer would submit an article and whoever was reviewing it would leave a lot of commentary of what needs to be fixed, it also created stress because it adds additional time. You thought you're done with this article and you move on, but you're now asked to rewrite it, to improve it, and you kind of don't have time for it. And with 3 articles per month, it has enough kind of leeway to be able to go back and forth a little bit and improve that article to the point where we're happy with what we're publishing. But yeah, now we have Ryan in charge of our content marketing machine. You know Ryan Law rather well. So yeah, we are still experimenting. We're still finding the right amounts of effort that we want to put into each article, the right amount of oversight, because what it turned out is that a lot of oversight is not necessarily good, because you start to effectively writing the articles for people. So they would write something and no, let me rewrite it all for you. And then why did they work on it if you're rewriting the whole thing? So yeah, we're still figuring out what's the best balance of kind of input from the from the manager, from someone more experienced, and output from the person actually doing the job. Yeah, not as easy, as straightforward as it sounds. As soon as you start kind of scaling your content marketing, as opposed to just like working as a team of 2 or 3 people.
Yeah, definitely not. I spent so much time too during the earlier days. I would spend so much time on the initial content briefs, like just adding in as much information as possible. Like I would scope out angles. Of course, I would be pretty flexible on that. I would go out and try to help like do most, if not all, of the research just to set them up for success, to make it easier for them once they got in and were able to write the piece of content. If I'm thinking back, where I spent the most time outside of that, just editing, just the back and forth, right? And trying to find that balance where I'm not completely rewriting the entire piece the way I want it to be written. So trying to find that balance of giving good feedback so they can go back and edit and resubmit. Lots of time. That's why I built AI, the workflow.
So I don't think you actually answered where you were finding those freelancers. Were they your previous connections, or did you find them on Upwork, or I don't know, ProBlogger, job board, or what's
Yeah.
And again, since you are in the process of launching your agency, I would imagine you'll need content people. So where would you go to find those folks?
Yeah, that's a great question. I definitely did not go to Upwork. Pretty much everyone came from Animals. They were all ex-Animals employees. Nathan worked at Animals with me. There are a few other people, worked with Allie. She was also at Animals. So yeah, now I think about it, almost everybody came from Animals. There was one writer who did not work at Animals, but I met her in 2016. Just gave like some feedback on a project, and we kept in touch ever since. And then I saw she was looking for work and reached out. So the power of the network is very, very, very important. Me personally, I know there are great people on Upwork. I have not had any good experiences on Upwork. The how to write an obituary with AI came from writers from Upwork. So I'm done with Upwork. I'm done.
So wait, basically, you had some quality content people working with you at Animals, and when you went to Copy.ai, because I would imagine those people were freelancers, they weren't married to Animals, they weren't the employees, or were they?
They were. There are quite a few of us that kind of all left like right around the same time. And these are folks that I had worked with. So I knew they were good. I knew the quality of work was really high.
Okay, so then you brought them to Copy.ai, again in the form of freelancers or employees? Freelancers. And
Yeah.
now as you'll be launching your own agency, they would keep working with you as freelancers.
I hope so. Yeah, that's the plan.
Well, yeah, what you're saying about the power of the network makes a lot of sense, because when someone wants to launch a business, they seem to need I've learned about this concept that capital has 3 parts to it, and money is kind of the most boring part of the capital. So yeah, you have money, so what? The next thing is competence. And you have this competence because you know how to create content, how to work with AI, how search engine optimization works. Basically, you've been there, done that, you have competence. But the third piece, which is often missing, is resources. Because even if you have money and competence, you cannot do all the job yourself. You need people, you need workflows, you need, tools, standard operating procedures. And people are often the most challenging thing, because those SOPs, those workflows, you could have created them, 5 years ago, and you were refining them little by little, and they stay with you. But people, especially if you are an employee, not a business owner, where you can pivot your business and take your employees with you, when you're working at some company, and those are employees of the company, they are not your employees, you don't have them. So if you want to start a business, you might have money to invest, you might have competence, but you'll need to hire people from the scratch, and it takes a lot of time and trial and effort. So yeah, like you say, power of the network, it's very cool that you have people who want to work with you. It makes it so much easier to launch your own business.
Yes, 1,000%. If I could put that on merch, I definitely would, because without their support, none of what we achieved at Copy.ai would have been possible. Because to your point, right, like you can't do everything by yourself. So being split between how do we continue to grow the blog, how do we chase this opportunity with tools and templates, and then starting to think through like ChatGPT launches and everyone's hair is on fire. Now we're trying to figure out where do we pivot without their support. Yeah, I don't think we would have had a fraction of the success that we had. So that's a great point.
You said something very interesting, which I frankly... So there were 2 parts to it. One of the parts, I didn't expect that you actually started using AI to create content for Copy.ai blog. But you then said that the content, if I understood you correctly, was sourced from the sales calls.
Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense, and I love it, because it is not kind of pure AI, which simply regurgitates the kind of statistical blob of similar content on a given topic and gives it to you, but you feed it unique information that was said during the sales call. And out of that, you can use AI to quickly go through this transcript, detect interesting topics and branches of conversation, and then try to expand those things into articles and then with human oversight. Again, walk me through this process from the operation standpoint, starting with which tool did you use to record sales calls and how did that, transcript go further into AI, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, of course. So we use Gong to record all of our sales calls.
I'm starting to hear the word Gong too many times recently, to be honest.
It is great. It's great. I love Gong. I'm a big Gong fanboy. I've always liked Gong. So it was awesome to be able to use them at Copy. But yeah, all of the sales calls were recorded on Gong. And we had a solutions engineer by the name of Rob, who workflows they were very early. Like the first version of the Copy.ai product that you see today with the automations, the first version of that was like in Airtable. So we use that actually for the tools and template pages. So everything that was on that page was generated by AI. And as we started to build it out and build an interface around it, it was still pretty hard to use. So we would lean on our solutions engineering team quite a bit. So Rob built something out to take the transcript. Every time a sales call would end, he had a zap that would trigger. And then it would take that transcript and then send that over to the workflow. So just the raw input was the entire transcript. And then from there, we wrote out like the structure of, hey, this is how the article needs to be structured. Here's how we want you to kind of like build the narrative of this is the way things were done before AI. This is what it looks like after AI. This is what you should mention about Copy.ai. Oh, and then go through all of these authors and depending on the topic, pick the best author based on their experience. So it would go through and create the first draft, pick the author, and then dump that into a Notion database. So at one point we had, I think, 3,000 articles in a Notion database. It was so much. I personally could not manage it, but this is way too much content. And every time you would get assigned a new piece of content from AI, you would get a Slack message. So imagine, Tim, getting 30 Slack messages in a day. Hey, there's a new piece of content here for you. So the process, like from beginning to end, sales call ends, there's a zap that triggers. It sends over the transcript to a Copy.ai workflow, which generates the first draft of content. That then dumps into Notion. Whoever is the author on that content gets pinged in Slack, and then we had to go review that like human review. So there was human in the loop at the point, but we were having several sales calls a day, so before you know it, you have 1,000 pieces of content that you now can go through and determine, hey, does this match with anything that we have planned up? Is there anything wrong in here? So it was great that we still had that human in the loop step. And if I'm correct, I could be wrong here. Most of the content you see today on the Copy.ai blog, that's more like thought leadership, is from that same transcript, like transcript workflow.
Yeah, it sounds pretty inundating to have that many pieces of content creating and you need to go through them. And I would imagine a lot of them would be fairly similar because I would imagine salespeople have more or less the same conversations, especially with the same kind of customer. So I guess it would vary on type of customer, their industry, and things like that. But for a typical customer, there would be more or less typical conversation. And the way I saw it is not necessarily creating an article out of the transcript, but finding, what would be interesting is kind of along the lines of the information gain concept, where AI would find the part of the conversation which it didn't see, I don't know, in the previous 30 conversations or however many you can feed to AI. But I think you didn't do anything like that.
Not specifically for the content, not in that workflow. We did have a AI workflow that was built out for our lifecycle manager, that would go through pretty much the same process using the transcript, but then it would pull out like what were their pain points, any objections, like what types of assets should we send them post call and things like that to help her kind of build out her sequences there. But that is a really good, I think that's a great use case. It's something that could definitely be built for sure. There is one point I do want to touch on. During that time, we were still trying to figure out like who our ICP was at Copy.ai with this new product. And because AI was so new and like our approach to AI was novel, I don't think we had very many sales conversations that were very similar, which helped us tremendously on the content side because everybody had like a slightly different use case, which was great, but it was also a problem for us because there was no repeatability. So like we had no idea like which way do we build? Do we build for marketing folks? Do we build for sales folks? We also have people who like only want to focus on product description. So trying to like figure out where do we go play ball at? Like, we don't know because every time we get on a sales call, there's a completely different use case. So it's like, okay, there's no repeatability. How do we actually go about approaching this? That was a really big hurdle for us at that time. But it also helped in terms of the content aspect in transcripts.
Okay. So your title at Copy.ai was Head of Demand Generation, right?
Correct. Yep. My last title. Yep.
What does it imply in terms of your scope of responsibility, and what kind of KPIs did you have in this role?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's an interesting title because I was still focused on SEO for the most part. Like most of my responsibilities were still on content and SEO. At the time, as I mentioned, like we just brought on someone to pretty much run with all things content. And I would support from keyword topic research perspective, technical SEO perspective. But I pretty much, they came in and said, hey, you build the vision that you want. Like you can see what I built here. I don't know if it's right. It's been working, but I don't know if it's right. You may have something that's way better than mine. Like go and build your vision of Copy.ai and content here. So really focused on SEO. And then when we made the move to go up market, starting to build out the strategies, like how do we get in front of these large enterprise companies like a Stanley Black & Decker? You know, historically, we didn't run very many like paid ads at all. We did a bit of paid search, didn't do too much on LinkedIn. So starting to think through that. How do we do more events? What does that look like? You know, how do we do account-based marketing? Like, what does that entire flow look like? So really trying to figure out like the foundational pieces to enterprise acquisition. That's where I spent most of my time working with the sales team and the rest of leadership. In terms of KPIs, everything was revenue focused. Every little thing we did had to track back to revenue, which I love, right? So like I would still report on traffic, but when I had to go present to the board doesn't really care about traffic. They want to see like, what's the trend in terms of free signups? What does the free to paid conversion rate look like? What does expansion look like? And then on the enterprise side, you know, how many leads are we driving? How many demos are being booked? How much pipeline are we influencing? So I was hyper focused on that. And one key metric we looked at on the content side, I actually borrowed this from Zapier, actually. It was, they called it ROCS, like return on content spend, which is a spin on return on ad spend for those folks who are in, you know, like performance marketing. So you look at, you know, pretty much all of your costs that go into producing content, salaries, tools, things like that. And then you can, you know, report on pipeline influence from your content, expansions, reactivations from your content. So we tried to break down each piece of content to show how much pipeline did this piece of content drive, our AI workflow automation piece. Was this piece, you know, from a lifecycle perspective, like a core part of getting folks to reactivate or expand? So we tried to break it down that way to tie at least some sort of revenue metrics to our content.
You even tracked expansions and reactivations?
We did. That was a core metric for us. I think in Q4 we were really focused on expansions and reactivations. Yeah, it was.
How did you track that?
Yes, great question. We had a great data scientist by the name of Josiah. I would not have been able to do any of this without him. We brought him on, and he was able to build out all of our attribution, all of our dashboards and Light Dash. Like at the time, Tim, we used the attribution model I didn't even know existed. It's called the Markov model.
Markov chains.
Yeah, I had no idea that existed. So he's like talking to me about it. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but this sounds amazing. This sounds great. Like, let's do it. So we had all of this built out to where we were able to visualize the entire funnel and look at 3 different attribution models: Markov, first, and last touch. And then we were able to assign a revenue value or pipeline influence value to each piece of content. I wish I could take credit for the work, but it had nothing to do with me. Josiah was the genius behind bringing all this to life. I just kind of laid out like, hey, this is what we want to track. How do we get visibility into these metrics? And he took it from there.
So I wonder how accurate that might be with all the GDPR stuff where people just say, don't save any cookies. And I would imagine that cookies play a big role in being able to attribute a sale or a conversion to a returning customer, because if they're not logged in the software when they consume a piece of content and then upgrade to a plan, or they are on a free plan and they buy a premium one without cookies, how are you able to do this? But I guess that would be a question to Josiah, rather than yourself. But still a question to yourself. As you were given this dashboard with that information about pieces of content and how they are bringing free customers, paid customers, reactivations, expansions, what kind of decisions did it lead to? Because the argument I'm typically making is that, first of all, the content is already there. So it rarely makes sense to delete content if the conversion rate is like 0.5 or something, while the rest of the content is converting at 2 or 3%. Because conversions are conversions. If a piece of content is converting, just let it convert. So that's the first thing. The other thing, typically, an experienced marketer would make all the right decisions before creating this piece of content. So you understand that, okay, this piece of content is targeting a keyword, so I'm going to get search traffic to it, or this piece of content has a viral potential, so people might click on it on Twitter, on LinkedIn, or I can promote it via ads and get cheap clicks this way. Anyway, a marketer understands how this piece of content is going to get traffic, is going to get visitors. And then within the piece of content, you also understand, we call it the business potential score at Ahrefs, which basically grades how likely a person is to buy your product from this piece of content. So for example, if someone is searching for how to see the backlinks of my competitor, that's a business potential of 3 for us. Business potential is a score from 0 to 3. 3 because there's no way to see your competitor's backlinks unless you're using a tool like Ahrefs. So if someone is searching for that, that's an easy sell for us. If someone is searching for SEO tips, it would be business potential 2, because some of the SEO tips, they would require using Ahrefs, some not. So the chances that a person would convert are less than from the previous topic. And for example, the business potential of 0 is how to make a GIF image. If someone wants to create a GIF or a GIF, whatever you call it, how do you sell them Ahrefs? You might show them a pop-up with the lead magnet, blah, 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 blah. But still, the kind of conversion funnel, the sales journey, the buyer's journey from making a GIF and converting to Ahrefs is very long. So basically my argument is that you're making all the decisions before you create this content. So for example, for me, if I would take a list of, 10 recent articles that we publish, and I would grade them by how well they convert, and then I would open your dashboard with attribution, I would imagine that I would be 90 to 80% on point with my predictions of how those articles convert.
Yeah, and I don't think you would be wrong at all. I think the decisions that I made off of the data, there were a few. One, if I was able to see and like attribute like, hey, this piece of content is driving revenue for us, I would dive a bit deeper into the queries in Search Console. Believe it or not, a lot of the new tools that were built on Copy.ai, they all came because for some weird reason, we're ranking, I don't know, we have average position of like 80 on some random query. For example, sales copy generator, our homepage ranked. Like, why? Like, why is our homepage ranking on this? Like, literally, we're not talking about this at all. We don't have a tool for this. But just being able to dive in and analyze that, I was able to find net new content opportunities. Of course, like shifting through that data, you can run through a similar process as you just mentioned with the business potential score, which I love. We had something kind of similar at Copy.ai, and then score it out, prioritize that, and then work from there. On the other end, at one point, we had 26 million people on an email list. So we had a huge email list.
26 million? That took a second to register. 26 million.
26 million. We were using Customer IO at the time. We had overages every single month. We had so many people on this email list. And, for me, I'm looking at the data, like how can we then take this content and then bring it to Lifecycle, bring it to email for new customers, existing customers, reactivations? Can we utilize this content in Lifecycle? I think at times that's often forgotten about. Like most, I won't say all, but most SaaS companies, when I see them do anything with email, it's like, hey, here's a newsletter of our recent blog post. It's like, okay, cool. I mean, awesome. I don't think that provides a lot of value, but thinking through our onboarding sequences, where could we drop this piece of content? Like, does it make sense here? Or for enterprise, as they're onboarding and working with their solutions engineer, can we drop in a piece of content about AI hallucinations or, the differences in outputs between LLMs, and being able to have the data to show that when people see this content, they convert? Like, to me, that's just a positive signal that makes me feel more confident in, even being able to bring that up to the rest of the team of like, hey, this piece of content should go into this sequence because X, Y, Z. So those are some of the decisions that I would make using that data.
Okay, that does make sense. But still, when I think of those dashboards, I feel that they're mostly created for CEOs, for the bosses, to kind of show them, look, this is working. Because it's one thing to understand what you're doing and have a faith, know that it should work. But it's another thing to being able to show it to your boss and look, those, 10 articles that I suggested, they are bringing customers at this rate. Kind of show your value, proof that you're bringing value.
Yeah, 1,000%, and for the board as well.
Yeah,
I also had to present to the board. I also find it to be, as we started to build out the team, like a great motivator as well. Like I've come to realize that we'll never have perfect data ever. Like I could wish all day that all the data would be perfect, but I don't think that'll ever happen. But being able to see like, hey, I did X and Y happened, like outside of like clicks and impressions, I think everyone on the team was motivated by that. Just, being able to see the real impact of their work. So from like a team building perspective and keeping your folks motivated and bought in, I think that was huge for us at Copy.ai as well.
Yeah, this is quite a big problem for our own content marketing department, because we have little to no analytics at all. And basically, at times it feels that people publish their content into a void. So yeah, you would understand, okay, there's kind of dopamine hit from seeing your article rank and get traffic. Or sometimes you might pitch it on social media and it would resonate with people, so you get the feedback. But yeah, you don't see how exactly it is tied to sales and company growth. And if we would be able to make that connection, I would imagine that would definitely influence the motivation and kind of psychological well-being of the content team more. Because for Sam, who is doing our videos, it is a bit simpler because we have this self-attribution form when people sign up for Ahrefs, where we ask them, where did you hear about us? And you cannot skip the step. You have to write at least blah, 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 to get in. And a lot of people mentioned YouTube or Sam's name because he's a host of our YouTube channel. So Sam can easily kind of attribute, like, this quarter we had this many views and this many people said they found us on YouTube. So I think he even calculated some percentage of leads that the YouTube channel is bringing us. Of course, it's also not perfect because Sam isn't the only one who's making videos on YouTube about Ahrefs. Some random SEO professionals, bloggers would still do this. But still, Sam can clearly see that the more views, the more subscribers the YouTube channel is generating, the more it reflects into self-attribution and people are mentioning YouTube, his name. So yeah, I do agree with you that for team morale, it's quite important to be able to see how your work influences the bottom line, the success of the company. Let's talk about brand and branded keywords. So I've noticed that Copy.ai branded keywords have a lot of searches, and I wonder how this happened. So what made people search for Copy.ai?
Yeah, two things really. First, the founders, both of them, Paul and Chris, they built in public. So very early on, they were very, very, very active on Twitter, very active. Being one of the first companies to do anything with, any open AI model definitely helped a lot. But them sharing the journey, sharing revenue numbers, sign up numbers on Twitter, that built like a cult following for Copy.ai. And then Austin, who ran our UGC program, he would work with creators across TikTok and Instagram. And that was huge for us. At one point, he brought in all of our UGC videos as a whole. We had over 100 million views, which is still hard for me to comprehend. I can't I'm like, this doesn't seem real that we had this many views. But he built out this playbook, to work with these small to mid-sized creators across TikTok and Instagram to build out all of this content of folks using Copy.ai. Granted, we did get a lot of students to come from that, but there was business value in that. That did help us build the brand as well, alongside the efforts of Chris and Paul building in public. So I think those were the two primary levers for us. And then that just kind of snowballed from there.
So again, the name of the guy who did the influencer marketing thing, Paul?
Austin.
Austin.
Yeah.
Is he still Paul with Copy.ai?
He is, yes.
Okay. We'll look into that. Just kidding.
He's a very interesting guy. Probably the most interesting guy I've ever met in my life. So.
Oh, interesting. Because we were also doing quite a bit of partnerships and influencer marketing, but I guess not on the kind of scale that you guys did it. If you're talking about millions of views on TikTok and Instagram, but also I would imagine your Copy.ai is more kind of consumer oriented than Ahrefs. So Ahrefs is a more professional tool where Copy.ai can be used by a broader amount of people. So maybe it just was easier for you to do this. But yeah, I would love to get a chance to talk to Austin maybe about this and see what he did on that side. What about advertising and paid acquisition? So what you're saying is that building it public and building with influencers is what kind of raised awareness about your brand to make people search for it in Google. So, but Copy.ai is a venture-backed company, right?
Correct.
So I would imagine you also had some coverage from the funding you got, and that also probably generated some interest.
Yeah, what was interesting about Copy, we did not spend too much on paid acquisition at all. It unfortunately was not a channel that we could get to work for us. Like just thinking through like the cost to acquire a customer and what our LTV was, the numbers never aligned. So we ended up like shutting that down and just pushed pretty much everything we were doing there into affiliates, which helped a bit. I don't think affiliates were a huge driver for us. I think with affiliate programs are tricky. There's lots of fraud in there. They're tough to manage at times. But yeah, paid was never a main driver for us at all. Really, it came down to two core channels outside of our founders, and that was UGC, TikTok, Instagram, like Austin's efforts, and then SEO.
Yeah, paid is incredibly expensive. I'm even looking at what we spent, and we are super conservative with our spend on both Facebook and Google. We all only try to bid very carefully on the keywords that we think have the biggest business potential, and the amount of money that it costs us, like what, $1 per click, $2 per click, $3 per click, it's just a crazy amount of money. And yeah, a lot of companies are spending tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. Some companies are spending millions per month on their paid acquisition, but it seems they are not spending enough on content marketing and SEO, while they could have so much more results with that.
It is very interesting too when you think more about it. I mean, this is something that we thought about as a team. Of like, okay, we've invested this much money into paid search. We've tried this 3 times now. There were 2 times before I joined. Then we tried to reboot it again. I also think like outside of content marketing and SEO, like there are what I call like the old school ways of doing marketing that I think are still very effective. So when we were thinking about our pivot and thinking about ABM, we built out this entire sequence of like how this would work. Like, okay, we know these are the target accounts we want to land. Like our founders care about this, the board cares about this. Let's map them out. And let's think through from a LinkedIn ad to a personalized landing page that was personalized by AI to sending them something in the mail with like a dinner invite with the founders, with Chris and Paul in a specific city, let's say like San Francisco, to even purchasing a billboard on the way to their office so they see us every single day.
Did you actually do this?
We did not purchase the billboard, no. I was sad. I was sad because I wanted to. I found the billboard. It was surprisingly affordable. And I'm like, hey, like if we can just build something that is truly unique and stands out, like we will crush it. I think back of, I'm sure you've probably seen these as well, like the old Porsche ads, from like the 70s. Those ads grab your attention, and you don't see really any of that anymore. Everyone looks the same. We all sound the same. Most of us do in B2B. So we were hyper focused on that of like, hey, forget all of this spend here. Let's take this and do something that's just truly unique and get it out there and see what we could do with that. So yeah, we did everything but the billboards, unfortunately. I was excited about those.
Okay.
We didn't do those.
Let's go back to SEO, because one topic we didn't discuss is building links. Did you do anything in terms of link building or link earning?
Yeah, we did build links. Copy.ai was working with another agency before I joined. I think they were primarily focused on building links. I can't remember the name of the agency, but yeah, I think all like 100% of their scope was around building links. So I think their efforts definitely contributed quite a bit. But again, like Copy AI being early and then the whole AI wave catching on, we built links naturally. So once I was fully ramped up, I didn't spend any time building links at all. Most of my focus was on building internal links, making sure our internal linking structures were optimized. We're using the right anchor text. And I think that helped us as well from a ranking perspective, but I didn't spend too much time on link building at all.
But it was outsourced to the agency.
Right. Yeah. And then I got on board. We ended up parting ways with the agency, but they definitely contributed early Copy AI days for sure.
Okay. So basically, when you joined the company, you canceled the agency.
Yep, correct.
Why?
There are a few reasons. The main reason is, I know this debate is out there a lot, like paying for links. Just in full transparency, I've paid for links. I won't lie, I definitely have in my 10 plus year career. Paying the amount of money we were paying for 10 links a month did not feel like a good investment. Spending $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 a month for 10 links. Like, no, we can put that money to better use or just save it all together and not build those links. I didn't feel like we needed them at that point at all. So it just didn't fit within the strategy at all. I had already did the keyword topic research. I didn't think we needed to build any links at all. I felt like we could be really competitive through smart internal linking, and then we could use that money for other efforts.
Okay, fair. Makes sense. Yeah, here at Ahrefs, we also never proactively built links. No, not never. I tried doing that myself for an experiment with outreach. We didn't pay for anything. I was just trying to reach out to people, and they later published an article about that. But yeah, it is quite a menial process because I believe out of over 100 emails, I got around 10 backlinks, which was a good result, like 10% conversion rate. It was a good result. But that's because we already are an established brand. Right. And some people just want to kind of do us this little favor to kind of be on good terms with us because they never know. Maybe tomorrow they will ask us for a favor and we would kind of owe them in a way. But yeah, a lot of people, of course, immediately replied with, I want a link back from you in exchange. A lot of people say that you'll have to pay me. So yeah, definitely the large part of link building industry is pay to play. And to be honest, you cannot even blame people because even when you reach out to a legit website, which is not a content farm just to get links to other website, but a legit website that has its purpose, it could be, a news website, it could be a website of some product or some service, whatever. If you're asking them to put in some work, to put out a piece of content that would be featuring you, or even modify an existing article and add a few paragraphs about you, that's work, right? And you're asking them to do this work for free. What's in it for them? Yeah, your content might be amazing. It might be worth mentioning. It might be quote unquote valuable for your readers. But at the end of the day, you're asking them to do work that is a win for you, but what's a win for them? So I can totally see why people would want some kind of compensation for that. But yeah, in terms of link farms, where people just create websites with the sole purpose of milking those websites by selling links to other people, that's not something I endorse. Definitely.
I'm curious to hear your take on this. One thing I did do, and I'm sure you all see this too, we used to get so many guest post emails. Me personally, I would get so many of them. And some of them were from reputable brands. And after a while, I started responding and saying, hey, because we didn't accept guest post. We did at a time, but then I'm like, it's too much to manage. And like, sometimes the content is not really relevant to anything we're doing at all. So we shut that down. But I would respond and say, hey, we're not accepting guest posts, but we're open to doing like a one-to-one link exchange or something along those lines. And that worked. And it took me 2 minutes to respond to a few emails. So that was like a little hack I had with building links, especially if I wanted to build links to a specific article without having to do any outreach. Now, if I was at a new company, I would not have the privilege of doing that. But at Copy.ai, we had so many people reach out to us just asking us for guest posts. I'm curious, like, do you all do anything with guest posts, or what are your thoughts on the whole link exchange bit?
So the link exchange bit, some 4 years ago, we actually did a study where we looked, I believe, at the top ranking search results, and we looked up how many reciprocal links the top ranking domains have. Basically, how common reciprocal links are. And if you would search in Google for reciprocal links Ahrefs, you'll find that article with data. But I remember the main takeaway. I obviously don't remember any numbers because this was 4 years ago. Yeah, but the main takeaway is that reciprocal links are incredibly common. So it would be more suspicious if your website only has kind of one-way links, if a lot of websites are linking to you and you're not linking to anyone back, rather than if, 30 or 40% of your reciprocal, of your backlinks are reciprocal. I think for Ahrefs it was, around 30% or so. I don't remember the actual numbers, but whoever is interested, they can look up this article easily. We also, of course, tried to quote unquote leverage guest posts because it's like free content for you, right? But what you said, the quality of those guest posts is just very, very low, especially if they're free, because again, there's mismatch of kind of motivation and value. What's in it for the person? Why would they spend time contributing a quality piece of content for you? Even if they have an agency and they want to promote themselves, but still they can do a lot of other things to get clients rather than publish an article at Ahrefs blog. So we had kind of paid guest posts. So we would approach people who we would see are successful freelancers or owners of agencies, and we would approach them and we would say, we'll pay you $1,000, $2,000 if you would write an article about some of the topics that we see you clearly have first-hand experience with. So that, we did that. But even then, even when we approached those people and offered them, I think like $1,000 to $2,000, I don't remember if we paid more than $2,000. And even then, those people were struggling to find time to prioritize writing an article for us, even when we compensated them, because there were so many other things that they could do that made more sense for their business and for their income. So it's very hard to get quality content for free. It almost never happens.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. If someone else figures it out, please let me know.
If someone figures out how to get quality content for free, please drop us a message. So after you left Copy.ai, you became quite active on LinkedIn. You weren't public before, but now I understand why, because you're launching your own agency and you need some exposure, you need people to see your work. And in one of those posts on LinkedIn, you said that your CMO at Copy.ai left, this is a quote, an everlasting impact on your career. So I want to learn more about that, because I imagine as head of demand generation, you were reporting to CMO. And CMO was, teaching you something somehow, giving you tasks, giving you feedback. So tell me about that. What kind of everlasting impact did you get, and what did you learn from your CMO?
Yeah, that's a great question. I didn't work with Kyle for too long. Of course, I ended up leaving shortly after he joined, but watching him operate is what kind of left impact on me. Him coming in and being able to understand what we were doing, understand where we wanted to go, and then build a narrative around that. Like if you look at Copy.ai today, it's not marketed as a copywriting platform. It's marketed as a GTM AI platform, like a go-to-market AI platform, specifically for sales and marketing folks. And the narrative, I remember before he officially joined, he sent me a deck. He's like, hey, here are like early thoughts on what I'm thinking on this narrative. And I remember going through the deck, and this is after we interviewed, felt like 30 potential candidates for this role. And the bar for me was like, hey, if I have a conversation with these people, I should learn something. Like, you have so much more experience than I do. You're in a position that I would love to be in. And at some point, he sent this deck to me. I'm just like, wow, like, how does he already understand? Like, how do you already know, like, what we want to do and where we're going? And he was able to build a story that was just so captivating, right? Like, his storytelling ability is off the charts. So that was one bit. But then when he came in, he was just so transparent. You know, like, leading people is so hard. It's one of the reasons why I stayed away from the agency side for forever. You know, I tried to start an agency, and it's so tough to scale people. And watching him come in and just be so empathetic and transparent and tell us all, like, hey, you all are experts in what you do. I'm never going to know more than you in your lane. Like, anything that I say is merely like my opinion, a thought. So he was just really easy to work with, and he just believed in all of us. And I think that's the type of energy we needed as we were going to create a new category and thinking through, like, how the hell do you even create a category? Like, I hear everyone talk about it. I'm like, how do you actually do it? They're like, you know, everyone's like, oh, HubSpot did it. I'm like, okay, cool, HubSpot did it. But like, how do we do it? I have no idea. So him having that experience and like being able to build all of the systems we needed to do that and see that come to life is what left an impact on me. And ultimately, I think it'll make me a better leader moving forward.
What was the size of the marketing team at the point you left the company?
At that point, we were 5. We're pretty small. Yeah, five of us.
That's quite small. So I would imagine the CMO's name Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle Coleman. Right? Yep.
I would imagine he was quite hands-on as he joined the company. So he did a lot of stuff. What were his responsibilities and what was his output? Yeah.
He was very focused on, you know, just kind of setting the overall direction for the marketing department, like from a strategic level. What are we working towards? What does that look like? Making sure we all understood what the goal was, right? And a lot of that was creating this category. How do we bring Copy.ai to market as the new Copy.ai, not as the copywriting app, which is tough because it literally is in our name. Copy.ai. So, you know, that's tough. But with that came, you know, redesign, new messaging, new narrative, just putting all of that together to go to market. His brain was behind a lot of that, you know, the narrative that we brought to market. And then we, the channel owners, we were all, you know, responsible for tying that into our own channels and supporting that new narrative as we went to market.
Okay. The question that I cannot not ask, why did you leave Copy.ai after 2 years?
This is the $1 million question. I've been asked this so many times since I've left. Look, I left because if you ask anyone that knows me, I am a workaholic. It is a bit of a problem, you know.
And they didn't give you enough work.
I have more than enough work. I wish that was the case. Yeah, no, it's like when I'm passionate about something and I care and believe in it, I'll just work. You know, I don't really think about time or anything like that. And it got to a point where I went on vacation in December with my family, and you know, I kind of looked up and I'm like, hey, this is the most time I've spent with the girls in 2 years. Like, where did the last 2 years go And I just saw like, I was sacrificing my family life for my job. And as much as I love Copy.ai, I use the product every day. I love the team. I believe in what they're building. I needed to figure out how to build better boundaries. And I didn't have the right tools in my toolbox to do that while I was at Copy.ai. So I took some time off, spent some time with them, rekindle those relationships, and then, started working with like a career coach as well to kind of help me build these tools. So if I do ever go back in-house, I won't burn myself out. Like I burned myself out by being a workaholic and, just wanting to contribute however I could. But yeah, that's why I left.
And you're thinking that launching your own agency is the path to work-life balance?
Yeah, we need an asterisk next to agency. I promise folks I wouldn't call it an agency. Consultancy.
Consultancy.
Yeah, consultancy. I think that's a better ring to it. Yeah, I mean, I know it sounds like bizarre, but before I joined Copy.ai full time, they were one of my clients. And I had 4 clients at the time. And for some reason, I was able to set the boundaries. And it may have just been how like the engagements were structured. But it's like as soon as I go in-house, those boundaries are gone. And I'm like, hey, I'm here, whatever you need. I'll work all day. What are we working on? I'm a task rabbit. Like whatever it is, I'll go do it. I'm here to help. So yeah, I think it'll be better, especially now that, I've been able to kind of build up some of those tools too.
So tell me about your vision for this consultancy. You, before Copy.ai, I would imagine you had a short stint as a consultant because you say you had 4 clients. Yeah. And before that, you worked at Animals, which is a content marketing agency, right? Can we frame them as content marketing agency? And you were director of content/SEO sales. So you were the salesperson for them.
Yeah. So I would do the initial sales and kind of build out like the high level initial strategy that we would then pass to the strategy team.
Okay. So what's the vision for your consultancy, especially given that we know the context that you want to have the boundaries and keep a nice work-life balance?
Yeah. First and foremost, keep it small. I don't want to rebuild Animals. Animals was a great business, but I don't want to do that. I want to keep it small, and I want to work with folks that I believe in. I believe in them. I believe in the product, and in terms of the value that I hope to offer to people, really around, of course, SEO, which is what I go deep in, but helping people think through how to use AI, like how to actually use AI. I think people equate AI with ChatGPT, and there's so much more to it than just going to ChatGPT and saying, hey, I need a blog post about XYZ, or I need an Instagram post about XYZ. So helping them think through how to actually utilize AI and plug that into their own workflows. So I'll focus on SEO and what I'm calling like AI workflow development, specifically working with SaaS companies at this point. Maybe it'll branch out, who knows, but yeah, want to keep it small, work with folks that I believe in the product, and I feel like I can add value. There's, sadly, you see this too much in the agency side, consultant side. Folks are very eager to say yes to lots of projects, even if they can't add value. I don't want to do that. If I don't feel like if I can add value, I'm going to tell you straight up, I can't help you. Maybe I can find you someone who can, but I don't feel like I can help you. That happened recently. So just transparently speaking, it happened recently. I had no idea how I was going to help these people.
Do you already have any clients?
I do. I have a few. I have 3 right now.
3. How many more do you need to meet your threshold?
1. I do have a partner. I do have a partner though. I have a partner that's ramping up, so that'll increase. But me personally, just 1 more. Yeah.
Okay. And how big is, because we talked about resources. We talked about kind of 3 elements of capital: money, expertise, and resources. So what kind of resources do you have as a consultant?
Yeah, I have quite a few. As I mentioned, like the partner that's currently ramping up now, and then folks that I've worked with in the past. The clients that I have right now, the projects are pretty straightforward. They're mainly programmatic. And like with a programmatic project, I don't need to be on for 12 months. If I'm on for 12 months, I'm doing something wrong. The whole idea is like, hey, I build the foundation, set it up, teach you how to fish, and you're good to go. So these projects they haven't been too time consuming yet, because it's not so much of like, hey, I'm going to come in, I'm going to build out like your entire SEO content strategy. There is one that we're onboarding now that is, kind of within that realm. So it'll look a bit different, but it was nice to start with a handful of projects that were more focused on programmatic than anything. Kind of helped me find my footing.
How do you charge? Is this a flat fee for the project? Is this a monthly retainer? Is this hourly? What's the charging system?
I do typically, like most folks call it value-based pricing. It's pretty much project-based. Programmatic, typically we're looking at like a 3 to 4 month project where we work together on that end. If we're coming in to build out like your SEO and your content strategy and helping with the execution, so we're the brains behind it, but also helping with implementation, that's a monthly retainer that we'll break down as well. Like I have a few project minimums that we typically follow, but yeah, I've always felt that hourly rewards poor efficiency and skill. And oftentimes, depending on the project, you'll find that you're handicapped, like as a client, you're handicapped by hourly. Like you typically have like a set number of hours. And once you consume those, it's okay, well, hey, you can pay me more money, I can go do this thing for you. That's like, I don't want to operate like that. Like I'll scope out the project. I'll tell you what I think needs to be done and what I think the value of that is. Like if we do this correctly, and I'll price you off of that. Very similar to how we did things at Animals and another agency that I worked at in the past called Northcut. So having those reps in the agency life has certainly helped me kind of build out my own thing here.
So if you say that a programmatic project can take 3 to 4 months, or rather they would need your help for 3 to 4 months because maybe they would work on it even further, it means right now you have 3 existing clients and 1 spot you can fill. But I imagine in 3 to 4 months, one of the clients would go away. So you need a consistent flow of new clients, right? How are you going to generate the pipeline for yourself?
That's a great question. Outside of generating the pipeline, expansion is key. Land and expand. So one thing that I do, especially early on, right? Like just getting started, just with a handful of clients, provide as much value as possible, even if it's outside of scope. Now, if we were larger, I wouldn't do that. Like, hey, this is scope. This is what we're doing. But in some of these projects where we're focused on programmatic, I'm going through the rest of the site and saying, hey, we also have these opportunities over here. Like this is what I'm seeing over here as well. And then now we're starting to get meetings with other teams, so like trying to put my foot in the door by over delivering and providing as much value to help with expansion. And if we crush our projects, which we've over delivered thus far, if we continue to add value with the core scope, I think we'll be successful with expansion as long as we present the opportunities correctly. Now, building new pipeline, definitely being active on LinkedIn. Like I posted, before I joined Copy.ai, before we pivoted at Copy.ai, I think I posted maybe twice on LinkedIn and maybe like a handful of times on Twitter. Like I know you could not find much about me at all because I was like a hermit crab.
Yeah.
I'm like,
it was hard to prepare for this interview.
I'm like, I don't really want to get out there. And JH, John Henry, which I know you spoke to, he would always tell me like, you have to get out there. Like you know what you're talking about. Just get out there. Like who cares? Just get out there, share what you're doing. So that inspired me to, get out there and share more. So continuing to publish on LinkedIn, be transparent, not fall into, what most of LinkedIn is these days. Just stay true to myself and keep posting on LinkedIn. And of course, reaching out to folks in my network as well. I think that'll help with building out new pipeline.
what kind of retainers or project costs are we talking about? Because if someone listening to this thinking, should I reach out to Zac and have him look at my company? What is your threshold, like when it is too cheap to work with a company, so that people will understand the numbers we're talking about?
Yeah, so we typically don't take projects under 7,500 USD a month.
Per month.
Right now, per month. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
that includes. So who is paying for freelancers to create content? For example, you or the company?
Yeah. So if we, for example, if we had an engagement that included content creation, like long form content creation where we were using freelancers, that would just come out of the existing retainer that they already paid. So I would pay the freelancers directly.
Okay.
So they would be subcontractors of my business.
Okay. So what's your experience selling your services now versus selling while being at Animals? Is it easier, because Animals is quite a known brand, at least among the marketers, because again, this is how we hired Ryan Law, because I was following what he was writing for Animals blog. Some smart people work there, so I guess Animals build a name for themselves. But now you need to sell as Zac, not under Animals brand. So I wonder if you see the difference that a brand makes for how easy it is to sell your service.
Yeah, it is so important. Like at Animals, right? It was pretty easy to sell Animals, and you're thinking, you're selling 4 pieces of content for $10,000 a month. That's really not an easy sell like that.
Yeah,
that's expensive. If we're being honest, that's very expensive. Now that I'm out, it's just Zac. The sales cycle it could be a bit more difficult because I don't have a brand, like Animals. I think what's helping me, it's helping me and it's hurting me is the results at Copy.ai, and me being so transparent about that. Like I've had a lot of people reach out to ask me about that or ask me, about using AI. But when you're a small 1-2 person shop, it's tough to command as much money as say in Animals, right? Like I don't have any case studies right now. Hopefully I'll have some soon here. Like obviously I have Copy.ai, but like being a consultant full time, I don't have very many case studies on that end. So that's tough as well. But yeah, brand matters. Like Animals would get leads left and right. Like Animals didn't rank on really anything if you look at it, but Ryan was just like such a prolific writer. There are a lot, as you mentioned, a lot of smart folks who worked there that created this content that would bring people in, and Animals was looked at.
I think Jimmy Daly worked at Animals.
Yeah. So Jimmy was actually running sales for a while. So he built a lot of the foundation there, and then he was creating a lot of content as well, that would bring people into Animals. So biggest difference, obviously I'm not getting as many leads. I would love to have the lead flow of Animals, and it's not as easy to command, like the same premium, should I say, for engagements.
So as a salesperson, I imagine you talk to hundreds of SaaS companies.
Yeah.
While at Animals.
Yeah.
What are they typically looking for? Do they need, we just need 5 pieces of content on our blog per month? Or, because as we discussed previously, that while at Copy.ai, your reporting was focused on revenue, and you were trying to show how your work and the content that you are producing, how it is moving the needle in terms of company's revenue. So how were you selling content marketing services to SaaS companies? What they were looking for? When did they know that the agency is doing a great job and meeting their expectations?
That's a great question. I tried to approach it at Animals more holistically, like from strategy all the way down to execution. Most of the companies who would reach out to Animals they had either tried content maybe internally and couldn't figure it out, or worked with an agency and didn't see a lot of success. I would say 95% of the leads were focused on how do we turn this channel into a revenue generating channel. Like they had no idea how to do it. They didn't know like how to build a strategy to support that. And they felt like they couldn't either source content writers that could produce high enough quality, or they couldn't do that themselves internally. So they would turn to animals. So a lot of what we built, like when we present, because the process would be, we would jump on a call, have a discovery conversation to kind of get an idea if they're a good fit for animals. If they were, we'd go out, do a little bit of pre-work, and then do a presentation to them of like, hey, this is kind of what we see. Here's how we work. Here's how we would approach a strategy. Here's some pricing information and some case studies and things like that. We would break it down that way. So that was a typical process on that end. And then once we kicked off with the client, the first month was spent on strategy, which is scary for a client because you're not getting any content delivered, right?
Yeah.
Like that's like in their head, they're like, yeah, okay, strategy, but like I want to see content. I just, got $10,000-$20,000 approved for my boss to spend on content, and now you're telling me like the first month I don't get any content. So we spend that first month on strategy, but that was really important because we had to get to know them, the business, who they sell to, what makes them different, what their narrative is. And then month 2 and beyond, we would start to execute, and they would get monthly reporting on how, like, of course, what are we ranking on? Have rankings improved? Has traffic improved? Impressions? But most importantly, conversion. So we always try to tie that piece back to it. I think that's incredibly important. Like we worked with some of the largest tech companies in the world, and all of them cared about the same thing: revenue. Like, we're going to spend money on this. If I'm going to spend $20,000 with you, you got to show me something. You have to show me something on that end. So a lot of it was focused around revenue. And then you run into issues with attribution. Like we can't control how their analytics are set up. We didn't have a service internally with animals for that. So if they had poor attribution, we're kind of hamstrung by that.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. Final topic of our conversation, AI content. And I have a question which is essentially free 20 minutes of consulting from you. Because we don't use AI at Ahrefs. All the content that we produce is currently produced by human brain neurons, not the silicon neural networks. Can you change my mind? Because I am quite skeptical in the ability of AI to produce great content. We already talked about one great use case that I enjoyed, where you record the Gong calls, the sales calls with Gong, and out of this transcript, you try to create content. But even then, there were hurdles where you said that 3,000 pieces of content, it gets inundating, blah, blah, blah. So where would a company like Ahrefs, I would imagine you're familiar with what we're doing and you're familiar with our content marketing and our content. Where could we use AI in terms of our content output? So if we were to hire Zac, if we were to become your fourth client, what would you do for us?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I know we talked a bit about this, but as I mentioned earlier, when folks think about AI, they instantly think of ChatGPT. And most folks go to ChatGPT, they write a prompt, they say, "Hey, give me a blog post about XYZ. Give me a blog post about the 15 best SEO tips," or something like that, right?
That is terrible. That is absolutely terrible.
The output is horrible. But similar to the example that I shared with you with the Gong calls, how I've used AI personally, I'll spin up Otter, right, where I can just talk and it'll transcribe as I'm talking. So I'll pick a topic and I'll just talk for 15, 20 minutes about the topic, all of my thoughts. And I'll use that as my input with my AI workflows, right? So I build the workflows in a way where the workflow follows a specific structure, for the content briefs, the outline, and how we think about producing a piece of content. So it has all the information on whatever brand I'm working with. So in this example, let's say Copy.ai, if we were working together, I would load in all the information about the brand, style guides, all that. But the input to start building out the piece of content would be your transcript. So we could talk on a Zoom call for 20 minutes, or you could talk on your phone or Otter about whatever topic in the world.
Let's make it more specific. We've been talking for almost 2 hours already. Can you do something with that recording? What can be done with this recording?
100%. Lots of things. We could produce blog content from this recording, LinkedIn posts, emails, really anything.
Can we produce one blog article from this recording? Can you produce one blog article from this recording? And I don't care where we would publish it. It can be published on your website. It can be published on our website. I just want to have a simple case study. We've been talking here on all sorts of topics for almost 2 hours. So are you up to taking this recording and I know creating a case study, maybe recording a YouTube video of like a screencast of how you take our podcast recording, and I don't know, maybe take one of the topics, because we discussed quite a few different topics, and turning it into a blog article mainly with AI, where you would do as little editing as possible. Because like we discussed with our conversation, we're giving AI a lot of unique information. So if you would need to work a lot on top of AI to publish a great article, then I'm questioning the value of AI, because I can just give this transcript to a freelancer and they would probably spend, I don't know, just 20% more time than what AI would do. So I'm interested in what AI can do kind of as hands-off as possible. So are you up for this challenge, taking this transcript and generating a piece of content with AI out of it?
100%. And to take it a step further, I would say an additional challenge I'll throw out there. Whatever topic, we can create a piece of content using AI and compare it to, I'll hire a freelancer, or we can hire a freelancer together, and we compare the output. We can leave it to the people to vote on which piece they think is better. We won't tell them which one was made by AI or the freelancer. I think that'll be interesting. Yeah,
and we can share it on our LinkedIn. That would be a nice case study.
Yeah, I'm down.
I like it.
Let's do it.
Okay, awesome. But the very important thing is that we need proof that the piece of content that you created with AI was as hands-off from human oversight as possible. Yeah, you can work a lot on the prompts and all that, given that they would be reusable. So, for example, you can just take another interview of yours. If you go speak to another podcast, you would put that transcript into your workflow and it would generate another article with zero time investment on your end.
Yeah, of course. And that's actually the beauty of Promise, not a product plug, but I don't work there anymore. But the beauty of Copy.ai, the new product with workflows, the AI is essentially building itself. You give it an entry prompt. So you would say, hey, given a transcript, do X, Y, Z. Given a transcript, create a blog. You could do something like that. Literally as simple as that. And then it would build out the steps. And within each step, there's prompts that you can edit or I can edit and go through and give it more structure. So in each one of those steps, that's where I give it the guardrails of like, hey, given a transcript, create a content brief, create an outline, and then create a first draft of a blog post. And in each one of those steps, I'm giving it guardrails, giving it my style guide. Don't use these words. We use M dashes, things like that, right? And like, this is what I need you to include in the outline. I can add steps to have it go research on the SERP and scrape content to make sure like the content's not too similar and things like that. So yeah, you build it once and then you run it forever. So I already have a workflow built specifically for transcripts. So yeah, I'll be able to record that, run it through, no human intervention at all. I won't edit it at all. I'll run it through one shot, and whatever it gives me on the first output, that's what we'll use. So okay. AI, don't make me look bad, AI. No, I'm kidding.
Plus, now that you're more active on LinkedIn, you need something to post, and you have shared some interesting stories, some interesting workflows. again, you can try using AI to create a LinkedIn post for you. And again, what I want to see is if people would notice, because I would imagine that the posts that you wrote so far on your LinkedIn were written by yourself.
Negative.
Negative?
Yeah, no, I have not written a single post myself.
Seriously? You wrote them with AI?
100%, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Did you have a workflow? How does the workflow? Let's get into how did you write them then? How did AI write them?
Yeah, so very, very similar to what I was just outlining. You give it the initial prompt, and then in each step, so I could say same thing. Given a transcript, create an engaging LinkedIn post, just very high level, and then it'll create the steps. So you'll have your input step where you give it the transcript. You'll have the step that creates the LinkedIn post. When you open up the step that creates the LinkedIn post, there's what we call the background prompt. That's the prompt that's sent to the LLM. So in there, I'll edit the prompt, right? So I'll give it a template to follow. Hey, structure the post like this. Use my voice. Like I'll upload my brand voice, tell it to use my voice, and then I'll just run the transcript. It'll create the post. Sometimes like I may have to run it more than once, mainly because like I don't like, at times it can go a little crazy with emojis. Like I tell it to include emojis. I'm like, I don't need an emoji like every sentence. But I just want to make sure like it does actually sound like me. And I think everything that I've published so far, I haven't had anyone tell me, hey, I think that's AI. The one thing I won't comment using AI. I won't do that. If I comment, you see me comment, I did write my comments, but all my posts are all from transcripts. So if I'm talking about something that I did with Copy.ai or my two most recent posts from not last week, but the week before, both generated from AI. I just talked to my phone for 10 minutes and took the transcript and dropped it into that workflow. It followed my template that I gave it. And then all of my other guidelines of like, don't use words like revolutionize. AI loves that. Revolutionize. Loves that word. So I give it a list of words not to include in the content as well. Then yeah, you're off to the races. So
that would be interesting.
Yeah. And I'm curious so I know that the podcast, of course, like Spotify, YouTube, do you send out an email as well to folks like when you drop a new episode?
We didn't, because we published the entire first season as a season. Right. So we announced the season, not an individual episode. But we realized that it is 6 times. We had 6 guests, so announcing it once, it's 6 times less promotion. So the next season will be publishing episode by episode and announcing and sending each episode. Why are you asking? Because we can also create email copy for this episode.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Challenge for Zac. Since you have skin in the game. You have skin in the game. You want this podcast episode to get as much exposure as possible. I challenge you to create a LinkedIn post. Again, you have some LinkedIn post, or you'll see how I announced episodes of other people. So probably you can use this as examples of AI, and you can give me how you want to pitch it on LinkedIn, on our newsletter, even the YouTube description. So whatever resources you can send me, I will use them. And this podcast episode would be entirely announced by AI. I think it would be pretty cool thing to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's do it. I'm in.
Okay. Super interesting. I never done anything like that before. So to close off, because I think we're on the same page, that I totally agree with you that just asking AI, generate me this, generate me that, won't produce any interesting results. But if you can give it some unique information from a sales call, from an interview like that, or if you record your thoughts on the phone, like you said, yeah, I can see how it can help you frame it as whatever piece of content you need, whether you want to later record the video and you say, this should be a script for the video that I'm going to record, or this would be a post on LinkedIn, or this would be an article for our blog, and you give it a lot of instructions and you give it this input with the unique information that you want to kind of expand. That's a fair use case. I do agree with that, but it seems that a lot of people just want to say, write me an article about, I know, ABM marketing, go. Yeah. And it does. It generates an article about ABM marketing. So a happy but dumb person would just copy paste that article on their blog and hope for the best, which is silly thing to do.
It is. I always tell folks this. I know we're coming up on the end of our conversation, but if you give a lazy marketer AI, they'll just scale their laziness. Like you still have to work. Like that's still required. I would say look at AI as a junior employee, someone who's junior, right? Like there's some hand-holding that's there. Like they're going to make mistakes. The AI will make mistakes. But if you spend that time up front, especially if you're using something like Copy.ai to build it correctly and you test it, your output, and what we found at Copy.ai is the output from the content was better than what we were getting from freelancers at that time. Now, that could say a lot about our selection process or whatever the case may be. But yeah, the TLDR, don't be a lazy marketer when you use AI. Like treat it as you would someone on your team. Give it as much context as possible. Don't just blindly do exactly as Tim just mentioned. But hey, write me this article about ABM because you're going to get back a bunch of junk.
I love this quote. If you give a lazy marketer AI, they will scale their laziness. I noted it down for myself. It's great. Final question. We obviously talked a lot about Copy.ai because you work there, because you're using it. What other interesting AI tools do you see and use? And what's your kind of prediction in terms of what would happen to AI tools, given that ChatGPT is also interested to kind of improve and scale their functionality?
Yeah, great question. Clay is a great tool. They're actually somewhat similar to Copy.ai, but they're very focused on automation, and they have Clay agents. They're all over LinkedIn right now, so they're doing something right on the marketing end. Most of the use cases are primarily for sales, like enriching data and things like that, using AI and doing that at scale. So they built a great product. Tome, Tome. They're think of like if AI met Google Slides, like a presentation platform. Awesome, super easy to use. Used to use it quite a bit for the board meetings. To generate everything from the slides, the design, the charts, graphs. It's like, this is awesome. I was like, this saves me so much time. So bullish on those two. And in terms of like the future with AI tools, it's still so early. I think this with AI in general, like you think about the first plane or the first car, right? Like when Henry Ford rolled out.
No, sorry to interrupt you, but my question is more so ChatGPT is basically the source of the API for all these tools, but they're interested to make money as well, so they can be integrating all those functionalities in themselves. Do you see this happening, or do you still see that individual tools will still make sense given the, unique use cases that they're serving?
Yeah, so I don't think they'll do that. Like to my point, like it is still so early. So yes, you have OpenAI, but you also have Anthropic that's out there. Personally, I think their models are better than the models from OpenAI. I've done quite a bit of testing, and we're going to have more model providers, right, as the tech advances. Like we're still so early into this. So I don't think OpenAI is going to try to eat up everyone. Like they do make a fair amount of money from what folks call wrappers. these companies that they call AI wrappers. You think of Jasper, you think of Copy.ai. I know Writer has their own model, but we all leverage OpenAI. We use Anthropic. We're model agnostic. I think you'll see more of that. So you'll see companies building, but giving users the ability to use more than one model. Or they may build some logic to switch to a certain model depending on the task at hand. Because who knows, in 5 years, maybe OpenAI is not the leader. Maybe it's Anthropic. It's still so early. I'm not entirely sure, but I definitely don't see them consuming, some of these more established companies that are built on top of OpenAI. Could be wrong, but I don't see it happening. I hope I'm wrong.
Zac, thank you a lot for this conversation. It has been awesome. I wish you good luck with your agency, and I'm hoping that you will not overwork yourself.
Appreciate it, Tim. Thank you so much, man. It was an honor to be on here.
Thanks a lot for sticking till the very end of this episode. I guess that means you enjoyed it, right? Because if you did, I have to ask you to subscribe to this YouTube channel, or maybe click the follow button if you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify. Not sure if you know this, but subscriptions and follows are the strongest signal for these platforms to show this piece of content to more people. So I would really appreciate it if you would follow and subscribe. Thanks in advance, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.